So a quick hello to everyone. And before we begin, I just thought we'd go through some housekeeping items. So if we can page forward one slide. Number one, we are going to record this session and send it along to you after the webinar. Number two, please submit your questions at any time. We're going to try our best to leave 5 or 10 minutes at the end for our panelists to answer any of the questions that you have. Number three, if we page forward again, our micro machine slide, please make all purchasing decisions based upon products that are readily available today. And then if we page forward maybe 2 more times, most importantly, just a thank you. Very appreciative that all of you have chose to invest the next 60 minutes with us to hear some of our thoughts around contact center of the future. Certainly a thank you to one of our leading Salesforce implementation partners, NeuroFlash, for partnering with us on today's webinar. In a couple of minutes, you will hear from the head of product and innovation at NeuroFlash, Patrick Bayries, directly. And if we page forward again to kind of get into who you will hear from today, my name is Joe Guarino. I look after banking and lending in the East at Salesforce. I'm joined today by 4 contact center subject matter experts, and we will have Patrick, Ryan, Olivia, Kieran introduce themselves in a couple of minutes. But first, as a father of 3, naturally, the first thing I did this morning was go to ChatGPT and ask for best AI dad jokes. This was one of the outputs. What's the difference between ChatGPT and a comedian? A comedian knows when to stop. So with that terrible dad joke, I will stop and move on to why we are all here. I think most of us would agree that LLMs and generative AI are rapidly evolving technologies that really have the potential to revolutionize the way we do business. And that's inclusive of the contact center, and we're just getting started there. Our panelists today will talk a little bit about their contact center journey with Salesforce thus far, some of the efficiencies and ROI that was generated, and then also what they're most excited about when it comes to future roadmap and impact of AI. So with that, I will pass it over to Ryan Nichols for him to introduce himself. Ryan?
Great. Thank you, Joe. And thanks to everybody for joining us today. My name is Ryan Nichols. I'm SVP of product for Service Cloud, which means I look after the product and engineering teams that build out the service platform that powers both traditional service desks, as well as contact centers, as well as field service operations. And I'm just so excited to be here today talking to you together with one of our great partners and dear friends, Patrick Bayries at NeuroFlash, and with Olivier and Kieran, 2 of our fantastic trailblazers. I just wanted to kick off with a little bit of an introduction to why are you hearing from Salesforce is a CRM. What are we here talking to you about the contact center about? And I think it's worthwhile to set a little bit of that context for the power in having a unified service platform in your contact center. We really think about the core service jobs to be done is really spanning these different blades of the service fan, starting with the type of service experiences that our customers expect of us, right? Your customers have higher expectations for the engagements that they have with you than they ever have. And it is more challenging than ever to meet those expectations. But it starts with a self-service experience, because nobody ever wakes up in the morning thinking, I know what I want to do when I want to call into the contact center, right? So having a delightful self-service experience is the start of any great customer journey. But it doesn't stop there. Self-service experience can really be a starting point for engaging with your customers proactively, sometimes before they even know that they have an issue themselves, meeting them on the channels of their choice, which increasingly isn't on a kind of web case or email type support channel. It's or even on a traditional phone channel. This is meeting customers where they want to be met on digital channels, but then having the same set of service processes behind the scenes to satisfy your customers, whether that's a case management process, a knowledge management process to deliver collaborative service with swarming, getting the right work to the right person at the right time to resolve their issue. Those same service processes should apply regardless of what channel or what type of service that you're delivering to your customers, because it's only when you deliver those consistent processes that you're able to take things to the next level of automation. And that's what we're going to spend a bit of our time talking about today, because it's really what's enabled with this new generation of artificial intelligence. We've been making predictions using AI for a while about what's the right next reply to say to a customer, what's the right knowledge article that might be useful in this situation. But now with generative AI, we're able to go from predicting to actually generating that perfect next service reply, or generating that knowledge article that's going to automate the next part of your service. And we're starting by delivering those in an agent assist way, but then taking the human out of the loop and enabling the next generation of our bots is something that we're all very excited about, because this is the potential for really one of those win-wins, right? Getting customers the help that they need proactively without having to reach out, while delivering service very, very efficiently. So having all of these capabilities, including the capability to continuously improve your service operations, all built on one service platform, is a really, it's a powerful vision. It's one that gets me and the entire Service Cloud product team excited about what we're building in our product roadmap, and helping see our customers be successful on the service platform is really what we're here to talk about today. And that's something that isn't a technology story alone, right? Being successful on this platform, it takes processes, it takes people, and there's no better partner to talk about all of those parts of the equation than my friend and colleague, Patrick Barry. So Patrick, over to you to talk about the next generation of contact center innovation.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you, Joe, for kicking us off today. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and talking about the future of service. It's a space that I've personally been in for a couple decades now, but it's never really been more exciting than it is today in terms of the opportunities that we have to have real impact on our customers' businesses. I think we often talk about the rate of change continues to accelerate, and we will, I think, continue to see that in general terms for business. But that also means that now is the best time to make changes, right? That it's going to be even faster and more complex in the future. And the technology that's available for us today, whether it's AI or automation, or I can't believe I'm saying this, legacy AI, the AI that we used to talk about, I think the possibilities have never been broader. And we are super excited about, certainly implementing the great innovation that's coming out of your team, Ryan, and helping customers drive that business impact. And I wanted to just give a few kind of key points that we bring into our practice in helping customers be successful, for the audience to think about in their organizations, as they're embarking on this journey, or maybe continuing their journey. What are sort of the key things to keep in mind as they go down that path for kind of optimizing success. So NeuroFlash is, kind of known as the customer service or the customer success company. We are a leading partner in the especially digital space, digital and AI space with Salesforce. Our practice really started around Service Cloud, but we now have really deep expertise in areas like field service, in Revenue Cloud, in Experience Cloud, and continue to stay on the very front lines of digital channels, Service Cloud Voice, and AI especially. And we, kind of pride ourselves on driving the customer outcomes as we're engaged with our customers, not just sort of turning on technology, but really incorporating that technology into their processes to drive the business metrics that they are looking to achieve. And that's really our focus, and that's kind of who we are as an organization. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that we go through with our customers to achieve that success. So a few things to keep in mind as you are, embarking on your customer service journey and thinking about, what does the future of customer service look like for my company, in my organization? The number one thing is we start all our conversations with our customers around their business goals. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Obviously, there's a lot of excitement in the market today around Gen AI, and we are excited too. But we want to start from the perspective of, how can we advance your organization forward? What were your business priorities before you started to look at shiny objects and map the technologies to drive that kind of change. Agent efficiency is always, toward the top of the list, as is customer experience, and certainly the technologies that are available today and that which is coming out from Salesforce. We're super excited about how that impacts those metrics. But there are also other priorities that you have as an organization. Maybe you are looking at doing more with less. Maybe you are looking to drive more sales closures, right? And whatever those priorities are, we want to start the conversations there and really map them to the appropriate technologies, whether that be Gen AI or automation or new agent experiences, or consolidating your data in one place so that you can now drive some of those amazing technologies. That's where we want to start the conversation. And I encourage our customers to think about that first. What is it I'm trying to achieve? The next thing is to think about the technology in context of your people and your processes. Turning on the technology itself, or even getting an answer from technology, doesn't necessarily drive business change. You need to think about, how does that fit in the workflow? How am I going to actually translate that to how my people work, and how that impacts our customers as well? For example, getting a signal inside of your agent experience that says, hey, there's too much dead space on this call. Well, that may be by itself doesn't actually drive something. Now, if that becomes actionable, if you can actually say what should happen because of that, if you think about how does that fit into what the agent is doing at this moment while they're actually having a conversation with the customer, then you can start to get to business results. So how does the people and the technology come together to make something better than before? And again, go back to the business goals that you have. And so thinking about your workflow, thinking about your people, thinking about optimizing your experience for your customers through the combination of both your people and the technology, I think is another key component to keep in mind. Turning on the technology by itself is not going to drive results. So thinking about the interplay between the two and the collaboration, I really like to think of synergy or collaboration between the two. That is, how does the technology make my people better? And how can my people be involved in making the technology better? I think that's a key thing to think about as well. In addition, the idea of actionability. And I briefly mentioned, one counterexample a second ago, but the idea of I need more than just data. I need more than just an answer. I need a way to translate that into benefit. So is that technology going to help you close this case faster and therefore get on, to help more customers? Is that going to make it more accurate, a more consistent service across channels? Is the data that's available to you going to allow you to deliver a more personalized experience, and that's going to translate to better for your customers? And what is that flow? What is the 3 steps or 4 steps that are necessary to get from, some data and then some automation and then an answer and then translating that into action? Actionability, I think, is a huge key that we need to make sure is part of the processes. And when we engage with our customers, we're starting with those business goals, but then to get there, there's a whole focus on actionability of the data that we're getting. And sometimes in the last decade, we've seen some technologies sometimes get implemented without that actionability component, right? Then people were excited that they implemented, some new capability or even AI, but having that available is only part of the story. Being able to make it actually drive change is really, the second part and where the payoff really is. And the last thing I would mention in terms of the kind of key components to keep in mind is to build and think iteratively. And that's because these newer technologies, you don't go off in a closet and build the world's best chatbot for 6 months and then unveil it to the world and it's perfect. That's not how these technologies get from good to great. They get from good to great by understanding your business, training things appropriately, and then getting started, but to build in the feedback loop and to build in the capabilities for you to understand how it's working and then tweak those dials and make it work even better. And of course, your people are a big part of that component, giving feedback, human in the loop, et cetera. But to think about the process as an ongoing one to get from that good to great level, that also means getting started, because you can't iterate, obviously, unless you get your feet wet and kind of roll up your sleeves and get started. And some of the technologies that have been released by Salesforce recently and are upcoming on the roadmap that we're excited about are really easy to get started because they are sort of purpose built for a specific use case. They include human in the loop, and they don't require a ton of foundational pieces to be in place. Almost all the customers that are out there can use these technologies, very quickly and get started, and then start that iteration process and really, really hit the accelerator for what the future looks like for your service organization and how you deliver service to your customers. So start with your business goals in mind, optimize for the collaboration between technology and people, make sure you're making it actionable, and then think and build iteratively. That includes getting started. So that's what we kind of advise our customers to do, and super happy to engage with our customers on that journey, and have really done some amazing and exciting things in the last several years with some of this newer technology, and we're super excited about what the future will bring, both for those engagements with our customers and with the technology that Ryan's team and the broader Salesforce team continues to deliver. So thank you again for having me on, and I'm super excited to hear the rest of the conversation and our amazing customers.
Boy, thank you, Patrick. There's so much wisdom in what you shared there, and I know that that's just scratching the surface of all the experience at NeuroFlash. So thank you for sharing just a little bit of that. We're really excited to talk about how this comes to life in the stories of our customers. We have two amazing trailblazers with us here today. We have Olivia, who joins us from PenFed, and Kieran from Affirm, two fantastic and very different financial institutions who've both been on a journey of changing how they engage with their customers, transforming their contact centers, doing some really interesting work on the technology side of things that's really shown up in real ways for their customers. So please join me virtually wherever you are in giving a big thank you to Olivia and Kieran for joining us today. This is, yes, we'll all do the virtual applause. So why don't we start with just some introductions? And Olivia, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then maybe start with you and just ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about PenFed.
Sure, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Olivia Bold, and I work for PenFed Credit Union. My title is the Director of Digital Strategy and Projects, and I kind of sit between our business operations side and our IT side, and I help to kind of negotiate requirements and deliver new functionality using the Salesforce platform. And for context, PenFed is the second largest credit union in the States. So we're at about 36 billion in assets, coming up on 3 million members. And we've been around for quite some time, originally starting out as like War Department Federal Credit Union. We catered to military members and their families, but we've since expanded our field of membership so anybody can join. So we've been going through some pretty rapid growth over the last 8 years or so since our CEO took his role, and Salesforce has really allowed us to keep up with his goals of growth. And yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
That's great. Thank you, Olivia. And we're really excited to hear about that journey. But first, Kieran, maybe just a quick introduction to yourself and tell us a little bit about Affirm.
Yeah, my name's Kieran, and I'm the solution architect on the Salesforce team here at Affirm. So Affirm, we're the leading buy now, pay later product in North America, and we're kind of expanding into new countries as well up here in Canada. So like originally, I guess when we sort of started off, it was like through generalized buy now, pay later products. We are expanding our reach more so through like offline debit cards and everything else at the moment. And yeah, our Salesforce journey started about just over 2 years ago now, and really like with the growth of the business and kind of where it's been going as well, Salesforce has kind of been alongside that, growing with us as our primary system in the call center. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about it.
Great. Well, thank you, Kieran. And why don't we just keep on going with you for your Salesforce story? Why don't you tell us the start? Like every journey has a beginning, has that first step, and that's oftentimes fueled by a specific business challenge that you're trying to solve. What was that for Affirm? What was the beginning of that story?
Yeah, so like originally we were, or all of our contact center, it was a kind of more of a homegrown system we had originally. It was decided to make the move into Salesforce, just to be able to like leverage some of that really that like powerful kind of like out of the box functionality, and kind of like have a system that would kind of grow with us and be able to like deliver quickly was the main idea behind it. So yeah, we started out about 2 years ago. with NeurFlash along our side. That's how we got our original implementation started. Like with that, like right now, or like to our like customer base and through the growth of it, like right now, even like in our call center alone, we can get anything up to like 60,000 calls a month. And then even right now, we are driven by like holiday traffic. So like even right now, we're looking at like a 20% increase of that over the next couple of months, throughout the holidays and everything, because that's like really when our product is very heavily used in the market. So like kind of through that, like having the abilities of Salesforce, and more so having the ability to like quickly configure changes, or just kind of like to like meet the demands of your customers whenever anything's going wrong, I think has been more powerful to us, instead of like waiting these kind of like long months for heavy engineering times or anything else. Like I think one of the things I can think of most recently is we launched our Affirm card product earlier this year. So I think like we did a small ramp in the low thousands originally. So like we had like a very kind of like low level of like servicing with that, but it quickly ramped. We were getting 75,000 new users a month over month. So with that comes a very large scale kind of like influx into your call center as well. And we weren't originally there to meet that demand. We saw like the big spike in volume, and there was we didn't quite have, let's say, like the routing set up correctly, or like there was a lot of transfers happening into like skilled agents and everything else. But I think that one of the best things for us is that we were able just to work with that team and meet that, and like it was quite a quick turnaround in the end. We were able to like reconfigure like our IVR, or like reconfigure the agent experience to like meet to be able to like meet those kind of customers, and sort of like deliver that within like 2 to 4 weeks, and kind of like meet the business there. And like we saw the incremental kind of like CSATs and everything go up with that as well. So yeah, that has been kind of quite powerful for us, is that sort of on platform kind of capabilities we have, and how it all sort of integrates together, that like me and my team are able just to kind of like get in there and get our hands stuck into whatever the business needs.
Well, that's such a powerful thing to be able to meet the needs of the business for increasing growth, increasing complexity, and have the technology right there to meet it. It sounds like, Olivia, it sounds like a similar set of growth challenges might have been that starting point of the journey for PenFed. Is that right? I know you've experienced incredible growth.
Yeah, definitely. That was a big factor. We also were working with a wildly inefficient technology stack. And so, changes to any experience, whether it was member, customer facing or agent facing, if they got to the point where they were prioritized, would take ages. I mean, they would take months and months. And so we really didn't have the resources to support that architecture anymore. And so we purchased the platform and financial services cloud in 2018. And our goal at the time was to replace our agent facing kind of homegrown system. We called it Penguin. What the agents would use in our contact centers to do like financial transactions, account servicing requests, things like that. And similar to Kieran's situation, we can take up to 400,000 phone calls per month. And we also have financial centers or branch locations where members go in and, speak with a branch support rep. So Penguin allowed them to do those real-time transactions and see that real-time balance information and so forth. And our goal was to replace that with Salesforce. And we very quickly realized after, doing a few months of bi-weekly major releases that there was so much more that we could get out of the platform. We started kind of clicking around, not even our development teams or our IT side, but, myself and our business analysts, we signed up for Trailhead and started learning about all of these really cool out-of-the-box things. And so we very quickly pivoted. We implemented an omni-channel skills-based routing model. We built out and delivered 4 new service channels or support channels using like a self-service help community that was rooted in knowledge content, web to case, a chat bot, and live agent chat in less than 6 weeks without a single line of code, which was pretty impressive. And I will say there was like a learning curve, right? Because you go from from handing requirements to IT and letting the developers do what they do best, which is, develop. And it took a while for us to really reset the way that we were approaching the implementation in the platform, because our development and architectural teams were so used to code and these kind of complex solutions that I knew would be hard to maintain long term. we would have to, making a change to a custom component or a really complex component was going to cost a lot of money. We were going to have to make sure we found the right resources and so forth. So we really married the two and prioritized out of the box solutions first and started simple. And then we built on that when needed. And we ended up actually being able to deprecate 19 separate systems. So we started out with the goal of replacing the one Penguin platform. And as we moved along, we just started, it was like whack-a-mole. We were just constantly like, oh, let's get rid of that system. And like, we don't need to go there anymore because we can do this with Salesforce so easily. And we had established that like kind of strong case management architecture that we could just rinse and repeat over and over again with all of our different support teams. So yeah, we were able to eliminate like 19 different systems, which means that like you don't have 19 usernames and passwords, and training, was much easier because you have this single browser window. So it's worked out pretty well.
Oh, well, I know you just got everybody's attention when you mentioned retiring 19 different systems. I mean, reducing swivel chairing, kind of bringing everything together is so often one of those goals that we set out at the beginning of a project that isn't always realized. So say just a little bit more about that, Olivia. Like, how did you achieve that actual system retirement? Like, how did you get to that point where you say, you know what, it's time to bring this one in, and you can turn the old system off?
It was interesting. We would sometimes get requests to build or fix something in an external system, and I would ask questions. What is that? What are you using that for? Or like, who all is using this? And you'd start kind of digging in, and then you'd say, no, I'm not actually going to prioritize fixing that. But what I will do is I will give you something 1,000 times better, and I'll put it in Salesforce. And what I tell business groups always is that you're instantly better off putting your process into Salesforce and getting off of your older systems. And the reason why is because you now have all of the data surrounding that account or that member, and everything is so well integrated. So you get instant tracking and reporting that we just don't have on external systems. We have a dealership relationship management app that allows for us to use like, partner portals and everything with our dealerships. We use Experience Cloud for our online banking. We have real-time transactions, monetary transactions. All of our account originations are based in Salesforce. And so getting your process moved into Salesforce just allows you to be a part of that member and agent experience and not have to worry about kind of having some standalone system that's disconnected, disjointed, separately maintained, and so forth.
I love that. That resonates so much. Now, Kieran, I know that for Affirm, there's kind of a similar mentality of bringing everything together, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about how that worked at Affirm?
Yeah, it's kind of it really is an ongoing process with us. We do have that battle quite regularly between like wider teams of like how much do they want to start putting into a platform like this versus kind of like holding on to it themselves. Like engineers love the ability to kind of go crazy and just do what they please. I think the big thing for us, I think, is more so like what we can demonstrate in terms of like that speed to delivery, that like kind of cost of maintenance, and overall that is the kind of like big buy-in for us. Like I think one of the more recent integrated processes that we did ourselves was through like our fraud alerts. So basically like a customer could put like a fraud alert in their credit report. So there is a need for kind of like a manual verification sort of to happen in that process before they can use products like ours. So that process before, if the verification couldn't take place, like there was up to like 3 to 4 days for like an agent to have to come along and like kind of like call them and to verify, but like we were losing customers in that like kind of point of transaction more than anything. So we worked kind of like across the teams. We looked to get that data together. So like even at the point now where like we're identifying these customers like throughout their journey. And then at that point of verification, like if that verification is failing, we're instantly making a call on your behalf from one of our agents so they can kind of like make that verification for you. So like I think during the experiment phase, there was like a 300% increase in like 24-hour conversion at the time of checkout and everything. And like that's huge for us. And especially coming to this holiday season for us, like rather than thinking about thinking about call centers or thinking about services, like I'm waiting for you to contact me and I'll go help you at that point. It was kind of it was like our first kind of like foray retroactively to kind of say, all right, let me meet the customer within their journey and like kind of like get on top of it and like let me help you sort of thing.
Well, so we're gonna shift into exactly these examples of AI and the business impact we've seen from AI. But I'm actually so glad that we laid this foundation, right? Because this is one of the lessons that I think we just heard so powerfully from Patrick. That while AI is certainly the hot topic, AI requires a foundation of channels to engage with your customers, knowledge in which to ground your AI predictions, customer data to set the context for those predictions. You need to have those foundational elements in place. And so I'm glad that we've spent the first part of our talk here talking about that foundation. Is just so important. But now let's shift to AI and maybe talk about some of the impact that you've seen from deploying both the predictive. We're going to start with some of the predictive AI elements and things like the fraud alerts, things like what you've seen in your IVR and the business impact you've seen there, and then we'll shift and talk a little bit about what's coming next. But let's talk about results so far. And Kieran, let's just pick up right where you left off. Where have you deployed AI? What sort of results have you seen? What sort of automation are you seeing by deploying technology?
Yeah, we're definitely kind of pushing, exploring that area right now. I know internally with us, we do have even a dedicated AI team just within Affirm, like kind of separate to the Salesforce team. But like I think within us, since we're like just like everyone, I suppose here, like quite highly regulated. So like even if like I'm very excited by new technology, there's a legal and compliance team who aren't as excited as I am, and I have a big load of convincing to do. So like I think we're really pushing the boundaries with a lot of like what Salesforce has been releasing at the moment. Like right now we even in the last like kind of like 10 days, we actually activated like the service replies product, and very like through minimal amount of effort, we're able just to show people. I was like, look, I created these 5 articles and look, they're producing the results that I thought they'd produce, and like it didn't take us that long to do it and everything else. So like I think kind of where we are right now is like we are kind of like pushing to see like what types of products we can sort of get out there. I think for us, in terms of like our confidence levels, that human in the loop is where we are right now, in terms of like we can get these out a lot faster, where like they are for the agents. So things like service supplies, or even like work summaries, that product. So like when you're transferring calls in the call center, or a chat that is just give you that upper level summary as to like what's been happening so far. I think we are a lot more confident getting those out there. But our wider teams, we are pushing the boundaries, especially I guess more so on the chat element more than anything. Is that that's the kind of exploration, is that like, all right, what if there was a complete chatbot that was more so driven by AI, grounded in knowledge, and like how far can we push that, and like does it still serve the self-service aspects and everything else? There is a very big want from the business to do something like that. So that's where we're kind of like, we're starting to explore and push that right now, and like see how far we can kind of take it.
I hear this so many times, Kieran, that like establishing that trusted way to move forward is so important for all your stakeholders. I mean, trust is certainly Salesforce's #1 value. We baked it right into our platform with the Einstein trust layer. And so these initial use cases, right, of that are the shift from predictive AI to generative AI, where we're not just predicting the next reply to a service question, we're actually generating it, and generating it based on a trusted source of knowledge, is how you get really high quality answers. And there's a human in the loop, right? There's somebody to take a look at that reply, adjust it if required, and only then expose it to your customers. Such a high trust way of getting started. Same with summarization, right? To kind of take some of that painful, like after conversation work that's required to kind of write up what happened. That's a great task, right? For the foundational models. You don't want to put that your raw transcript out there in a public large language model, but when it goes through the trust layer, you can get a really high quality summary that just makes it so much more efficient for your agents to pick up. So I'm really glad those are the types of capabilities that you're exploring, and that you're starting to build that confidence and your trust in your stakeholders to roll that out. Olivia, let's switch for you a little bit in PenFed. Obviously, trust, huge priority for you and your members. Can you talk a little bit about your journey with AI to this point?
Sure, yeah. I wrote down legacy AI functionality because I thought that was funny, because we've been like bragging about all of these tools that we've been using, like, case classification, and we use the omni-channel skills-based routing. We have sentiment analysis. We have, varying models in place that were pretty simple to implement in the Salesforce environment. And then just recently, similar to Kieran's experience, we kind of spent 20 minutes clicking around a sandbox, and we were able to turn on and enable the service replies with generative AI. And we were really shocked at how easy it was to implement. Yes, like I don't come from IT. I am not a developer, but I could drag and drop and click enable just in probably 5 minutes. But it worked so well. And even when there were very limited knowledge articles within that testing region, it was still providing me with responses that gave me a baseline to respond with. And so we were just really impressed. And we put that into production, and we too are very focused on kind of agent in the loop, making sure that we are kind of reviewing, daily and getting feedback from them. And the agents love it. They love it so much. They all have the best feedback about it. They don't always use them, right? And they still need to participate in their responses. But it's been a really good pilot case for AI. And it's a good way to start for us, because we too are, a very conservative organization. We really the security and safety of our members is of the utmost importance to us. And so we want to be very careful. We've put together a team of AI subject matter experts who can help us kind of navigate and establish how we're going to review these features moving forward. And when it's related to Salesforce, it becomes quite simple, because the architecture can be referenced for a wide variety of different features. Whereas some of the other business groups or other, use cases involve vendors who have their own separate architecture. And then there's this okay, how do we evaluate all of these different contracts when there's language about LLMs, et cetera? And so we're really navigating that right now, but we're at the beginning stages of how best to tackle. But Salesforce has made it really easy with the documentation that they've provided, and that allowed us to kind of ask a lot of questions and get a lot more information from product owners and so forth. So we're well on our way.
Well, it's not surprising, right? A common theme here, right? That one of the powerful capabilities of generative AI versus predictive AI is that it takes out this big step that has hindered a lot of organizations. I'm sure a lot of our listeners today have struggled with some of that. Okay, I need to train the model, and training the model it's time consuming. You need a certain type of expertise. You need to get the technical resources involved. And that's just a step that stands in the way of kind of rapid iteration, that kind of powerful iterative approach to seeing benefits that Patrick kind of kicked us off with. And that's one of the powerful things about service replies is it's pre-trained, right? There's nothing new to train. And that brings us back to the foundation, right? That brings us back to, well, do you have the data in place, right, to properly ground the pre-trained models? Because if you don't, then you're not going to see the same quality of responses that you're going to get if you have a robust knowledge base and good information about your customers in the system. So it really takes the focus back to where it should be, right? Which is on bringing your data together, bringing your knowledge together, bringing your customer data together. It sounds like that's a great common theme. Let's talk a little bit about what comes next. What are your priorities right now? Like, where do you think about taking your service operations as we go forward? Kieran, let's start with you.
We have we have a pretty good roadmap, which brings us to the end of the fiscal year. So that brings us into the summer of next year, where we kind of have sort of two rungs of things. One is we're looking at sort of a re-optimization of just how our agents update cases and everything. Right now there's quite an extensive we keep hearing there's a lot of fields and there's a lot of manual work. We don't need to do that anymore. So I think we're trying to take out an awful lot of that and just see what efficiencies we can gain. And even if that's gaining it through integrating with other systems, we're exploring just integrating with our Jira system right now, which will get rid of another swivel chair that we have to go do and kind of reduce time for us and gain efficiencies there. So we're doing a lot of that. But then kind of I guess as we mentioned, some of the newer products that kind of came out in the latest release, the service replies or work summaries, or even ones that look like they're roadmapped in the future, we're trying to get those positioned early so that we can kind of have the sort of pre-convincing of everyone sort of done. So once they're available and if they work for us, that we can sort of push them out and get the delivery with them. So really we're kind of very focused on agent efficiency and kind of customer self-serve at the moment. It's that how do we kind of meet people at their point in time, just sort of reduce the amount of effort overall that they kind of have to go do.
Sounds like a great roadmap. Everyone must be pretty excited about what's coming next. Olivia, how about you? What's next? What's next for PenFed?
We'll continue to enable these AI features over the next year as they become available and as we become more comfortable with them. Because the level of effort is so small, it still leaves a lot of room for us to be able to deliver on some of our more complex programs. And so we're in the process right now of wrapping up a collections management application that our collections team of nearly 300 agents. We do in-house collections of past due accounts, and they have just moved into the Salesforce environment. And so we really did what we call almost a lift and shift, which just means that we did really basic configurations and reused our case management and routing model to get them delinquent accounts on a daily basis and be able to manage their entire workflow and deprecate yet another standalone system that was kind of fraught with issues. And so as we move into 2024, we're going to be looking at enhancing those processes, further automating. By end of year, we'll have automated chargebacks in place with a lot of different action plan items. We're also enhancing our estate management process, which we started this year. We reduced that handle time by like 60%, but there's still a lot of work to be done and automation to be had from automating the different letters and so forth to the involved parties. And then we also recently purchased Marketing Cloud. And so we're looking at digital engagement and Marketing Cloud functionality to replace some of our other external systems that generate emails and text messages to members for a variety of different use cases. So we'll keep busy all year long.
Again, pretty exciting roadmap. That's terrific to hear. Well, I do want to give a few minutes right at the end here for our audience to ask some questions. So why don't we just wrap up with one final question for you both. It'll have two parts to it. The first one is just one headline, like one result, one outcome that you're just particularly excited about that really demonstrates some of the success that you've seen. And then just one piece of advice for those that might be a little bit earlier in their journey who are joining us today. What would you tell them? How would you guide them on how to move forward in their journey? Let's start with you, Kieran.
I think with any changes that we do, or even any of the changes that we demonstrated, it's once you see the decrease in handle time, first case resolution going up, CSAT going up, they're all the kind of like positive impacts of what you get. But like, I think it ties into the words of wisdom that I think even Patrick mentioned, is that the great is the enemy of good. Someone can come along and kind of tell you, this is where we need to go. And then from a technological perspective, you see that big beaming light, but that's kind of so far away and it's hard to get there. I think we're quite analytics driven internally here. If I think just like think of anything is like think of the iterations of how you can like actually get to a final stage of something, and like once there's like workable products out of it, get it out there, get people using it, measure the impacts that it's having, and like just make sure that the needles are kind of pointing the right way. And like it's very easy just to kind of like keep adding on top of it once you have like a good sort of release schedule in place and kind of can just kind of like bring people along for the journey. I think it's even good from a change management perspective as well. But yeah, that's some of the big words of wisdom I suppose I have.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Thank you for that. Olivia, bring us home. What's a headline metric, and then what words of advice do you have for the audience?
I mean, one of my favorites is our chatbot rate. It has a 70% deflection, and we iterate on that on a daily basis. And we require like little to no involvement from IT with our chatbot. So we basically identified a technical writer on our operational knowledge team who was interested in the chatbot experience and took a bunch of trailheads online for free. He Googled it, set up his own account, and went wild. And he is the author of all of our dialogues. So he designs our dialogues and does all of the intent training and everything, and really owns and operates the chatbot experience for us. Which brings me to my my favorite piece of advice, I guess, is to identify those tech savvy and engaged team members throughout your different business units, not just on IT, but on the business side, who you can give the tools and resources to explore the Salesforce platform. And if you can find those people who are, tech savvy and can learn and know your business processes and the culture of your organization, I think that it is well worth the time of getting them and collaborating with your IT resources to make sure that you're delivering a well-balanced configuration versus customization implementation.
Words of wisdom indeed. Thank you, Olivia. I certainly heard so many of the themes, Patrick, that you mentioned. I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well, but I just heard this importance of laying the right foundation, right? The bringing everything together, right? The shut down 19 systems, right? Bring together that single pane of glass, deeply integrate all of your channels. Like that was such an important foundation that I think we heard from both PenFed and Affirm. But then you're doing that for a reason, right? Don't just stop there. You're doing it to automate. That's the second thing that I heard, that's not hard, right? There are things that are easy to flip on that just make your agent lives so much easier, right? Things like service replies, right? That you can quickly activate. And then the third thing I heard is just the power of iteration, right? That it's not one and done, right? You turn on these capabilities and then you improve on them. You take the feedback, you have a roadmap for what comes next. So I just heard so many echoes of the lessons that you were sharing. Patrick, what did you hear?
Yeah, absolutely. I for sure heard that. And I think, with you, if you start with the end in mind and the business goals that you're trying to impact, it will guide you. These technology areas can be intimidating, for people who are maybe not engaged with them yet. But I think if you think about where do you want to go and you engage with the right partners, like Salesforce and NeuroFlash as well, it's pretty easy for us to be able to map out with you the path ahead. You can choose to bite that off at your own pace and what's appropriate for your organization. But if we center on what are we trying to achieve together, and then we can map that to what technologies can help us do that, how does that fit into our current processes? How do we, kind of map that with our people and make it actionable? I think it's not that hard. And, I think a lot of people, probably are a little afraid to dip their toe in the water or not sure that they can get there. But I think that iteration is really key, and getting started, really helps us move forward. Those people who are going to be successful with this newer technology in 2 years are the ones who are playing with it today. They may not be perfect on day one. That's not the point. But the point is to, get started, understand that foundation that's required, and then, kind of iterate and get there. And we're super excited to be along with Salesforce and all of our joint customers on that journey.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. And let's please everyone join us in one more just virtual thank you to Kieran and Olivia for sharing their stories. That was just incredible conversation. So thank you for that. So Patrick, I know you had some thoughts on where everybody could go from here. Over to you.
Yeah, we have a QR code that people can scan. I think if we can pull up that slide, that people can use to quickly engage with both Salesforce and NeuroFlash. And we're happy to have conversations with customers, even sort of at an informal level, about what they're thinking and where they might want to go. And certainly have a lot of experience, both historically and recently with customers on that journey. So, reach out to NeuroFlash, reach out to Salesforce. We've got your back, and we've got the technology and the methodology to get you started, and then to iterate and get to outcomes that we're hearing today from Affirm and PenFed in terms of, some of the things that they're starting to see already. So we're super excited about that journey. And I'm super passionate, as is Ryan, about the future of the contact center, which has never been, probably brighter and faster than we see it today.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. And I'm going to try to bring that slide up, but for some reason it's not coming up. So I'll bring that up. But I think we do have a few minutes here right at the end to maybe talk a little bit about Q&A. Should we spend a few minutes with Q&A? Joe, do you want to maybe tee up a few questions here?
Sure. I think we heard a lot of goodness in there, and there were certainly some questions that flew in. I'm going to try to prioritize maybe 3 or 4 of them, and we will start with the first one. And it was, I would be curious how the data migration went from the old system to the new. And this one's for Olivia. And we're referencing the Penguin system to over to Salesforce, as well as adoption and all the things that come with new UI and cultural habits. So Olivia, if you could maybe respond to that in terms of how that data migration went, and maybe some of the challenges with UI and cultural habits, if any.
Sure. So we maintained our core system, our core banking system. It's called Hogan. And there, like there are always going to be some issues with data migration, but we established a library of APIs that allowed for us to pull data from Hogan. We didn't want to go with an entirely new core banking system. We knew that that would be, a wild amount of effort. It would take a long time, and it just wasn't really necessary. But what we also knew was that we wanted to minimize that Hogan footprint. And so we are continuing on with our data migration journey and pulling in data from all of our different areas. We recently purchased a data cloud licensing as well. And so we're in the process of really bringing home all of our different data sources into one environment where we can use it more effectively. But as far as getting the financial account data and so forth from our core system, that went pretty smoothly. Once you develop the service, you can reuse it, anywhere and everywhere. So, for example, we pull in financial account data and we reuse that service call throughout different processes at different times and so forth. And that went pretty smoothly. As far as changing the culture, it's great because you can definitely find a lot of Salesforce talent from a development, from an architecture perspective. And what I think helped us really as an organization jump on board with the platform, we had purchased it and we knew we would be using it, but we were still evaluating external vendors for varying, processes, and like our online banking, we were still looking at, different companies. And I think what helped us focus and decide on a platform first approach was basically building out proofs of concept using out of the box or simple solutions and being able to really show in a tangible way how simple and fast we could deliver certain processes or certain experiences. We can tell our product owners all day long that it would take us 2 weeks to do a new originations flow, but until you can really show them that and prove it, it's a sales pitch. And so we were able to back up those sales pitches really effectively with proofs of concepts and collaborating between administrators or configuration teams and our development teams.
On that point of change management, one of my favorite stories from my time at Salesforce was one of the largest Salesforce implementations of Service Cloud that's still out there, started by just converting one chat queue of 36 agents. That was the beginning of a 40,000 plus seat transformation on service. And those users were included in the design sessions. Those users were asked about their pain points and their workflow and their processes. And the change management aspect of that idea of collaboration between technology and humans paid off huge dividends, because that group then became the envy of all the other groups who were now pulling change. Rather than resisting the push of change from the top, including those kind of users and sort of some of their pain points in what gets developed, makes them feel heard, makes them feel like this is a joint solution and that they're part of the future. And that group then became this magnet that all the rest of the 40,000 agents actually were asking for the new system, not resisting the new system, but asking for it because of that involvement. And I think, Kieran mentioned briefly the idea of change management and kind of involving your people there. And I think those dividends are huge when you think about, how am I going to lead to the results I want to get to, right? That's shrinking costs and increasing satisfaction and increasing efficiency and things like that. Well, in order to do that, you need the adoption, you need the buy-in, you need the sort of enthusiasm, and that's I think that's a huge lesson to think about too. Is how do you embark on this kind of journey with your users? Maybe even in some ways the users leading some of that journey, and the payback is really huge on that.
Well, so let me get to the next question. We still have 5 minutes to go. We try to jam in maybe certainly 1 or 2 more questions here. For Kieran, this one was for you. I love hearing how far you've come from in the beginning. When you talk about the automation of fraud alerts and the 300% increase there, and the re-optimization of how agents handle cases. The question is, how did you prioritize what to start with in terms of stack rank, and what made the biggest impact? How did you prioritize where to start, and was it based upon efficiency or automation or ROI? Just a little insight there would be helpful.
Yeah, we have, I guess we have a couple of different avenues of it. We have our my own department within a firm has like OKR set for us every year. A part of that could be anything from like cost savings, increase in deflection, to like lower NPS scores. So like there is an aspect of that where we have to work with like analytics team and innovate kind of ideas as to like, all right, what do we start offering more self-serve options in particular areas, or so like should we kind of go harder on like knowledge, or like relook at like our chatbot to see if we can deflect more traffic in different directions. So like there's an organizational one there where we work with our engineering partners, let's say on the Affirm and the Affirm app side, and like our product partners as well, to kind of like collaborate and sort of see, all right, can we unify this like kind of customer agent application journey? Equally with that as well, like our own team comes up with like our own roadmap, and like we kind of do it on a quarterly basis as well. Like a lot of what we do with that one is that we're kind of keeping up with the Salesforce releases. We're also looking at just like pain points that our system has, like we could build a flow, and like everyone tells you every second day they hate it. So that's cool. Like let's go look at this again. We have those kind of drivers as well, and generally what we do with those is that they are driven. We always have to demonstrate sort of material impact as to like, if we work on this is the outcome results we're going to kind of expect. But I think a lot of the ones that we work with ourselves outside of the OKRs, just like within the Salesforce team ourselves, we're looking at kind of speed to delivery. There's a lot of features you can activate, and they'll start having like very big impact and value to agents. Like you can, like if there was something about like even like creating child cases, we had something like it kind of took forever, but then like you can just create like a 1-button flow and it's done. And like that might seem really small and easy to do, but it's saving 3-4 minutes per case per agent all the time and stuff, and like that adds up over a month. So those are generally the ways that like we have been doing things, is that like we have kind of like our bigger organizational ones where we're generally innovating to say, right, what can we change here to make impacts? But then ourselves as well on the Salesforce side, I guess it's a bit easier to kind of just like look at customer journeys, look at agent journeys, and just see, is there better, faster ways we can build things or automate things to just kind of save people time on that.
Awesome. You know what? I'm going to try to jam in one more question. I think it's a good one, and then I'm going to wrap for literally 45 seconds, and we'll stay true to the hour. But this last one is for Olivia, and the question is: when you talk about self-service options, are these customer-facing or internal? Are they on a website or in an authenticated environment like online banking?
Great question, and all of the above. So we started out with a guest customer-facing experience, like a help center where our customers could go and have a public experience and do self-service. We expanded into an authenticated version of that via like a SAML handshake from our former online banking architecture. And then we replaced our online banking experience with a Salesforce Experience Cloud or Community Cloud, and that is an authenticated environment. And then separately, we have an org that is dedicated just for employee or internal use, where we manage, like policies and audit findings and IT tickets and things like that. And that is kind of driven by an Experience Cloud site page that is for employees only.
Cool. So if we page forward one more time, we were right on 1 o'clock. I want to kind of just wrap this up. I think there's, again, so much goodness from our participants. Some highlights from PenFed, deprecation of 19 systems via solutions in Salesforce. One question came in around what successes have been achieved with call deflection and automation. And I know Olivia mentioned that the chatbot rate had a 70% deflection rate with little to no involvement from IT, which was awesome to hear. From the Affirm side, they focused on speed to delivery and cost to maintenance. The automation of fraud alerts, which previously took 3 to 4 days, now instantly making a call on their behalf and resulted in a 300% increase in 24-hour conversion. Very powerful as well. So, all of that said, we will share this deck with the audience. We will share the recording with the audience. Please, feel free to reach out to me or to your AE or to NeuroFlash directly around any of the things that you heard or saw on this webinar today that you'd like to hear more about. And of course, thank you again for everyone that joined today. Certainly thank you to our panelists for sharing their experiences, for NeuroFlash for sponsoring alongside of us and partnering with us. And again, please reach out with questions. We're at 101. We could have won another 30 minutes, I'm sure, but thank you everyone for your time.